Poetry is a piece of literature in which language is used for its aesthetic and evocative qualities. The English word poetry comes from Latin poeta, a poet. Poetry may be written independently as discrete poems or may occur in conjunction with other arts. Furthermore, poetry often uses particular forms and conventions to suggest alternative meaning in the words, or to evoke emotional or sensual responses. Devices such as assonance, alliteration, and rhythm are sometimes used to achieve musical effects. One author of poetry is Theodore Rothko. He was an American poet who published several volumes of poetry characterized by its rhythm and natural imagination. Theodore was born in Michigan in 1908. His father was a German immigrant, the owner of a large local greenhouse. Much of Theodore's childhood was spent in this greenhouse, as reflected by the use of natural images in his poetry. His life was very difficult, and his father and his uncle died when he was only 15. And despite all these problems, he wrote several poems, some of them The Lost Psalm, written in 1948, In a Dark Time, written in 1964, among other poems. Comparing Amon's Easter Morning and Recall's The Last Psalm as elegies, we can notice that what elegies usually do is to express sorrow or lamentation for someone who is dead. These two poems are quite nostalgic or melancholic. These elegies have been written because of a sense of personal grief, also for a broad feeling of loss and metaphysical sadness. This is reflected in both poems. For one hand, Easter Morning, the poem written by Amos used his own voice to write the poem. He began by telling us about his childhood, and the way he started the poem is very sad. It seems that he didn't have a memorable childhood. The poem seems to be a dead end of insuperable incompletion to a scene in nature that suggests a renewal and rebirth. On the other hand, The Lost Psalm, the poem written by Recall, shows a return to a memory of childhood that comes back almost in a dream. It is also a sad poem because it reflects sad experiences. This is what we could notice in the first fourth section of the poem. Concerning the last question of the first one, we could perceive that there is like a rule to follow. For example, first there is a lament, where the speaker expresses grief and sorrow, then praise and admiration of the idolized death, and finally consolation and comfort. Let us say that there are three stages of lust, and both poems suggest a renewal and rebirth or a new lifestyle.
The way these two poems deal with the problem of observing a natural world that is always in transition is making a state of consciousness on readers about the reality of the world. In other words, the point supposes that the world will change. As a result, it will not be the same tomorrow. The transition or evolution of the world is due to the power of nature and mind. Man's nature is to be intelligent, and if they are intelligent, their world will change. That is why the comparison between the world and the tunes. Amos said, "Tomorrow a new walk is a new walk." On the other hand, Ritka's words were, "There is a urge to start a new life."
Of course, they don't arrive to the same answer. In A Dark Time, Recombs is talking about himself, personal desires. He said one is warm, free in the stirring wind. On the other hand, in the dueling, Amos argues that humans develop most probably in our spiritual energy. This is the eternal residence. In other words, the physical existence within a physical world is the normal residence of our spiritual residence. Other poems in which these differences are presented are Heavy Belly and Tendency to Ascendance.